As in Mr. Kelly, 5 minutes.
Thanks. I'd like to go back to Ms. Trong, your opening statement. You said, and I want to make sure that I got it clearly. You said that housing is the most significant stressor for military families.
In my lived experience, I would say that that is probably accurate.
It is
I think that
the
housing,
single most significant stressor for military families is housing.
I would think so, because it trickles down to everything else. Without stable housing, you're going to be stressed. You may not be able to find work to keep that stable housing. It's a vicious cycle.
It exacerbates the other stressors or the other stresses on family life in the forces.
I would think so, yes. It's been my experience from hearing from other spouses that that is the single most stressful aspect of being a military family.
So fixing this would be critical to fixing the crisis of morale in the forces. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that fixing housing would alleviate all of the stressors, but it would probably alleviate some significant stressors. But I couldn't adequately state what would assist in raising.
Let me ask the question.
Significant morale.
Yeah, let me ask the question a different way.
Sure. Okay.
The issues around housing, they affect morale in the forces.
Yes, they do.
Thank you. And they would also affect retention. Do you, in your capacity as an advocate for military spouses, are you aware of people leaving the forces because of the stresses of access and availability of housing?
I have heard of families that because they're being posted to a region in which they cannot access adequate housing, that they have made the choice to release, yes. But I am not aware of people leaving a base because of housing. It's more of the move aspect of individuals.
So the prospect of moving to an unaffordable housing market is a trigger for members to leave the forces.
Certainly can't speak for everyone, but I can definitely recall a number of people that I know personally that have chosen to release versus move to another base because of unaffordable housing.
Okay. So we're pretty clear about the affordability now. I want to focus back on the actual condition of housing. And I don't know how much time I have left, but okay, good. We got some time. If you could give us more, if you have any more detailed information about conditions of base housing and how they might also affect the quality of life for serving families.
I can't speak adequately to overall housing. I can speak to how individuals with medically complex children have traversed housing and some of the barriers that they have seen. I know that is a significant stressor, but I unfortunately cannot speak to overall CAF-wide how that is impacting families because I only live in one base.
Okay, I'll ask Sergeant Banks to maybe weigh in on the same point if he can.
Could you just repeat the question?
About the conditions that you've observed of housing, and I really appreciate you've given us really valuable testimony about issues beyond housing, but the report that we need to table in Parliament is about housing. So if I could ask you to keep your remarks on housing.
Just so we're clear, the difference between transient housing and living quarters. For living quarters, Alyssa would probably be the better person to ask for that. But for transient quarters, where I spent most of my experience, because I never lived in the PMQs, yes, absolutely. These buildings are falling apart. Like I can think of like P50 in Petawawa as a prime example. It's where I did my first leadership course in 2002. And that building 20 years ago was falling apart Utilities were falling off the side of the building, brickwork was falling, paint was peeling, there was talk of lead paint and asbestos in the building. 20 years later, that building is still in use right now.
Okay, thank you.